Is HRT, hormone therapy, replacement, whatever you want to call it, is it for you? In this video, I'm going to show you 4 steps to help you in your decision-making process. I wish I'd had these steps when I was going through perimenopause and menopause for over nearly 2 decades, and now I've been able to develop a 4-step process that helps my clients, and I hope it helps you too. Where we want to start with is a spoiler alert, which is that I did go on to HRT, onto hormone replacement therapy, after years of struggling with symptoms. I then, some years later, rolled off and have been successfully off HRT ever since. Now this 4-step process goes through, if you like, my thinking throughout those decades, and I've concertinaed it down into this process that I hope really helps you. So if you are anywhere on the hormone journey and thinking about hormone replacement, particularly because of peri or menopause, let's dive in. The first thing I want to say is step 1 is critical, and all the steps are together. They are deceptively simple, but actually quite clever in the way they help you on a journey. So don't miss any steps. Don't think they're too simple and you don't have to do them. They all combine together to build into a process that actually comes out with a fantastic congratulations, which I'll share with you at the end of this video. So let's dive into step 1. Step 1, the very first thing is that no matter what you read, no matter what research, and no matter when you are going to speak to a healthcare professional, you have to understand that the decision is whether you go on to hormone therapy or not is a seesaw. What I mean by that is that whether you go on to hormone therapy or don't, there isn't really perfection either way. I know I'm sorry to be a kind of downer, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, so stick with me. What I mean by this is that there are things that you will find are relieved by HRT, hormone therapy, and there are other things that, well, actually, as I found myself, are kind of disappointing. And on balance, you have to kind of look at it and say, right, go in with your eyes open. HRT or not HRT, hormone replacement or not hormone replacement, neither is really perfect. And you might find some people that say they've got their life back, it's perfect. They, in my experience with myself and others that I've worked with, it's very rare that it fixes everything either way. But certainly there can be relief if you think about hormone therapy. And depending on your symptoms, you can get relief if you don't go on hormone therapy. We'll talk a little bit about the risks of both and things that you should talk to your expert about, your healthcare professional about. But before you do that discussion, let's go into the very first step, which is for you to decide whether you are open to the fact that whether you go on to hormone therapy or not, that there is no perfect solution for all your symptoms all the time. It's a very important step to go in and understand and embrace and be open to the fact that you won't get perfection probably. So that's step 1. So sit down, have a think about it, take your time. If you need desperate relief, go through that process fairly quickly and get to a point where you say, okay, I'm open, I understand. And then move on to step 2, which is also probably the most critical and the least talked about, and that is your risk tolerance, as they call it in the business world. How much risk are you prepared to take when looking at whether you go on to hormone therapy or not? I have to say that wasn't top of mind for me. Not being on hormone therapy, I was just struggling with symptoms, looking at supplements, and it was a very harsh perimenopause for me for many, many years before I finally fell into hormone therapy. And I can talk on another video about my own journey. Let me know in the comments. The question for you is to really think about how much risk do you want to take? Not knowing what all those risks are yet, but you will find out. You may already know some of them, but think about, there are risks if you don't. You'll continue to feel hot sweats. There's research that's suggesting things longer term might be impacted, but we can talk more about the research on the long-term impact again in another video. Again, let me know. But really try and get a feel for, yes, I really want to fix these symptoms. I need relief now. Hormone therapy sounds like it might help. I'll have a go. So decide your risk tolerance and be open to the fact that whatever you decide as of step 1, it won't give you perfection all the time. And you go in, because of step 2, thinking about how much risk you're prepared to take, whether you go on to therapy or not, that you are open to knowing that nothing is perfect and there are risks associated with whatever you decide. So spend some time on understanding your risk tolerance, which, by the way, can change, and that's fine. The more information you learn, the more you experience being on or off hormone therapy or trying other approaches, the more you will become clearer about your own risks and your tolerance towards risks and your decision making. So spend some time on that, and the best way to understand your risk tolerance, once you've come to accept you do need to understand that there are risks either way, then go to step 3. This is really important and builds on the first 2 steps, which were about, okay, understanding whether you're on hormone therapy or not is not perfect. Step 2, understand there are risks either way, whichever way you decide. Now, step 3, how do you understand and define your own sense of risk tolerance? How much risk you're willing to take on? That is a little bit trickier than you think. I always thought I knew myself really well, but when I started to crescendo with my menopause symptoms, that, remember, this was years, they actually fatigue you and you don't quite become as clear-minded about what you should do. They are also, menopause symptoms are also stealth symptoms. They don't all appear at once. They can disappear, others can appear, and some symptoms look like there's something else. I remember a particular symptom where the usual suspects might have been ongoing, and this one would appear and then disappear, and it was around feeling dislocated, feeling disconnected. No one really tells you about that feeling, but of course that's a real drop in both progesterone and potentially another wonderful hormone. Please research, or I can do a video on it, oxytocin, that really plays around during our perimenopause and menopause years. So all these symptoms can appear, disappear, may not look like perimenopause or menopause, and over time, because you think you can just push through, as I did for many years, with supplements, with trying different therapies, including acupuncture and massage and water therapy, all sorts of things. Eventually you get so, for me, because the symptoms kept kind of building and disappearing, I got to a point where I really recognized that my risk tolerance was okay, particularly coming from a high health risk background with my family history. I decided, okay, I would try HRT because I felt that I was, if you like, the options that I was following were not working. So step 3 for you is really important because you need to really think about how you are feeling and how those feelings may influence where you are on the menopause journey and how much risk tolerance you feel like at this point. Now, the best way to go with step 3 is pretty straightforward. I'm not really a journal person. I do sometimes write down a lot of things about things in my personal life. I've never really maintained a diary, but I have to say, when it comes to menopause, if you can look at writing down your symptoms for a couple of weeks, even a week, the time, the date, what you felt, what was the symptom, and just track that. What were you eating at the time? Did you just have an argument? Was it stressful? Just monitor that. Don't judge it, just monitor it. And you will find very quickly that you will understand more about your menopause symptoms, and standing back and ideally rating them. So 1, not much of a hassle for you. 2, yes, it's there and I can feel it most days. 3, it's severe. If you do that on every symptom that you've tracked for 1 or 2 weeks, at the end of the 1 or 2 weeks, stand back and look at how many 1s, 2s, and 3s you have in your journal, whether you're writing it on a pad or a beautiful book. Keep it and religiously follow it for at least a week, if not more. Now, what this information gives you is data about yourself and your body that no one else can take away from you. No one else can tell you you are not feeling these symptoms, and that might become pretty important when you look for your healthcare professional or expert to help you through deciding whether you go on to HRT or not. So it's super important that you track your symptoms, because this will give you information about you and your body, and it is incredibly helpful when it comes to conversations with your healthcare professional about what you should do. The other thing that tracking your symptoms does, as it did for me and some of my clients with the feedback I've had, is that you start to recognize that you are actually having quite a lot of 3-type symptoms that really impact your life every day, often multiple times a day. If you have lots of 3s after tracking 1 or 2 weeks, that's a pretty good indicator that you might need to seek out additional advice, which may or may not lead you to hormone replacement therapy. At the end of the day, I went to hormone replacement therapy after finally tracking my own symptoms, which took me years to get to. And so please understand, doing this is really based on practically 2 decades of menopause experience and feedback from my clients. You should really track your symptoms and then know and feel confident about your symptoms, because these symptoms are really your expertise. No matter who tries to take it away from you, they can't, because you have it written down for yourself, and it's very helpful information. Now let's move to step 4. Let me put up some stickers here, because I really am wanting to congratulate you on step 4. And step 4, let me show you, is that you are, let me get my sticker right, an expert. You are the expert in yourself, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because you have the data from step number 3. And that's really important that you remind yourself of that when you have your conversations with whomever you decide to bring into your world as part of your perimenopause or menopause journey. Understand to stay in the center, and this is number 2, empowerment. To empower yourself to lead your own journey with advice and support from experts, you need to be certain about your data. And remember, this can change, and so do it again. It doesn't matter. It keeps you in the driver's seat, which is incredibly important in menopause and perimenopause. Now, the other thing that this data does, which I think is helpful, and I love data and research, is that once you've gone through step 1 to 3, you can focus your search, understanding how many symptoms you have, thinking about your risk tolerance, whether you really are interested in HRT hormone therapy or not, and then focus your research and your search for the type of expert that's going to complement what you've found out about yourself once you've done steps 1 to 3. I have one last one, which I should have put as number 3, which is treat yourself like a detective. This is your story, your body, and you are on a detective trail. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you are feeling quite strong symptoms and feel great fatigue and don't feel like you could go on, then the one piece of advice I would give you in looking for your healthcare professional is make sure that they have expertise, and I mean experience, not just training, in what they call gynecology or OBGYN, which is obstetrics and gynecology. Now, a lot of doctors out there, medical professionals certainly in certain countries, call themselves OBY, which is really the obstetrics piece, and GN, which is the gynecological piece. And that really is worth looking at even as a definition, because OBY is actually obstetrics, which is everything to do with babies. And GYN is to do with the functioning of a woman's internal systems, as it were. I'm using my words, not the definition. And so that might be someone that you are consulting for your menopause or perimenopause, but their major training and experience might be in delivering babies. So make sure you ask when you phone in for an appointment, perhaps speak to the receptionist or the person answering the phone, which probably won't be your expert, and ask them about their expertise. How much experience do they have in perimenopause, in menopause? And if they say they have training, be aware that there is a lot of training out there for medical doctors and for healthcare professionals. And there is training growing in perimenopause and menopause, but most healthcare professionals that say they're in menopause, most of them won't have had that much training. There are, of course, exceptions, and the exceptions are growing, thankfully, but there are plenty of mainstream medical practitioners out there that have less than a week's training in menopause. So from my perspective, I decided to start looking for experts, and I can do my next video up there to show you what I did and the thinking I went through when I understood my risk tolerance around whether I should go on to hormone therapy or not. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like more on secret tips that I don't always do videos on, join my newsletter, which is in the link below. Thanks for watching.